There is a name most people have never heard, but this name controls land, banks, ports, and governments across an entire continent. We're not talking about a country. We're not talking about a corporation. We're talking about a family dynasty, one that was officially banned, publicly erased, and quietly never left. Some historians suggest this hidden network influences economies worth trillions of dollars across China, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. But here's what will genuinely shake you. This legacy didn't survive despite being forbidden. It survived because it was forbidden. 3 revelations are coming that will completely change how you see power in Asia. Let me show you exactly how this happened. To understand this story, we go back centuries. Asia was never ruled by one king or one country. It was ruled by networks, secret ones, family ones built on blood, trade, and silence. The most powerful of these networks had a simple rule: stay invisible, move quietly, own everything indirectly. These were the great merchant dynasties of the East, families who financed wars without fighting them, families who owned ports without appearing on any document. But wait, in the 20th century, something dramatic happened. Communist revolutions swept across China and Southeast Asia. Old dynasties were declared enemies of the state. Their names were removed from records. Their members fled to Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, Indonesia, the Philippines. Here's the first mini-surprise. They didn't flee with nothing. They fled with gold, with contacts, with centuries of knowledge about moving wealth silently across borders. And in those new countries, they didn't start over. They simply continued, under different names, through new companies, with fresh faces but ancient roots. One family reportedly relocated across 5 countries in a single decade, and emerged wealthier on the other side. Now here's where things get really interesting. Let's talk about what owning half of Asia actually looks like. It doesn't look like a palace. It doesn't look like an army. It looks like a holding company registered in the Cayman Islands. It looks like a real estate trust in Singapore. It looks like a shipping firm in Jakarta with no famous name on the door. Historians and investigative journalists have tracked certain dynastic family networks that reportedly hold stakes in over 200 companies across 15 Asian nations. Banks, ports, agricultural land, media companies, even telecoms. Here's the number that will stop you cold. According to researchers studying Southeast Asian wealth concentration, a small group of ethnic Chinese business dynasties, many with roots going back 400 years, reportedly control an estimated 70% of private corporate wealth in several Southeast Asian economies. 70%, in countries where they are often a small minority of the population. How is that possible? Because they didn't accumulate wealth the way most people think about it. They didn't build one big company. They built webs, thousands of small connections, each one looking harmless alone. Together, they form something enormous. Think of it like a spider's web. Each thread is thin. You could break one easily. But the structure as a whole, nearly impossible to destroy. And these webs were built across generations. Not years, generations. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. Here's the part that almost no one talks about publicly. These family dynasties didn't just survive government crackdowns. According to historians, some of them funded those governments, on both sides. During the Cold War, certain dynastic merchant families reportedly financed nationalist governments in Taiwan, while simultaneously maintaining quiet business ties in mainland China. They didn't pick sides ideologically. They picked access, past versus now. Before the 20th century, these families operated openly. Everyone knew who the great trading houses were. Then came the age of nation-states, surveillance, and political ideology. Suddenly, old wealth became dangerous. So these families did something brilliant. They fragmented. One family became 20 branches. 20 branches became 100 companies, registered in different countries, under different surnames, connected by marriages, informal agreements, and handshake codes passed down through private family councils. Here's the twist. Some of these family councils still meet today, not in boardrooms, in private homes, in temples, in wedding receptions where the real agenda is never written down. Investigative reporters in Singapore and Hong Kong have documented fragments of these networks. But the full picture, experts suggest, may never be fully mapped, because the system was designed specifically to resist mapping. One business historian described it simply: these families built structures that governments couldn't see, because they built them before modern governments existed. They didn't hide from the system, they predated it. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. Here is where everything connects. There is reportedly one lineage, traced across multiple countries and documented partially by genealogists and economic historians, that links a forbidden imperial-era Chinese merchant clan to modern-day controlling interests in banking institutions, port authorities, and land registries across at least 6 Asian nations. The family name changed 3 times, the country changed 4 times, the century changed twice, the wealth never stopped compounding. And here is what reframes the entire story. Some of the most recognizable Asian business empires you've seen in headlines, companies celebrated as self-made success stories, reportedly trace their founding capital back to these old dynastic networks. The money didn't appear from nowhere, it was transferred, quietly, across generations. This isn't a conspiracy, it's how generational wealth actually works, at the highest level. These families understood something most people never learn. Wealth is not built in one lifetime, it is designed across many lifetimes. The forbidden legacy wasn't destroyed, it was redesigned. And today, it quietly runs ports that move your goods, banks that hold your region's money, and media companies that shape what you read. So what does this mean for us today? This matters because it changes how we read power. When we see a successful Asian conglomerate in the news, we ask, who built this? The real answer may stretch back further than any headline will tell you. Short term, as Asia's economies grow, these dynastic networks are quietly positioning themselves in technology, green energy, and AI infrastructure. They are not late to the future. According to analysts, some have been investing in it for a decade already. Long term, the concentration of generational wealth in hidden networks creates real questions about economic equality across the region. It's a conversation that governments in Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines have tried, and largely struggled, to address. 2 personal takeaways from this story. First, generational thinking is the most powerful financial tool in history. The families that built these networks weren't smarter, they were longer, they planned across decades. Second, invisibility is a strategy, not always a suspicious one, but always a deliberate one. The most powerful people in any era are rarely the most visible ones. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. The most unexpected part of this entire story. Many members of these dynasties today reportedly don't know the full extent of their own legacy. The network was so deliberately fragmented across generations that even insiders only see their small piece of the web. The system protects itself, even from itself. We started with a forbidden name, a dynasty erased from official records, and we end here. That name never needed the records. It was written into the land, the banks, and the boardrooms of half a continent instead. If this opened your eyes to how power truly works, subscribe and share this with someone who needs to see it. Comment below which part shocked you most, and watch our next video, because the dynasty we haven't named yet, that story is even bigger. The truth was never hidden, we just weren't taught where to look.